Welcome back, everyone. Coach to you. My name is Coach Regina, and I am your host today. Today, we will be talking about coping with depression. Now, in our last segments, we spoke about trauma and dealing with the effects of trauma. And if you guys remember, I did part one and part two of that video. So if you hadn't checked it out, go back and watch the links in the video. So guys, today I want to just jump in and talk about it. But before then, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am not a licensed healthcare professional. The information I share on my channel is strictly for informational purposes and from my own experience and the research that I have done. If you are battling a form of mental illness, it is very important that you seek a healthcare professional for further therapy. All right, so let's jump in. So what is depression, guys? When we talk about depression, I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you what it's not. So essentially, depression affects your mood. It affects how you feel, think, and act, and it's characterized by persistent feelings of sadness, hopelessness, a lack of interest or pleasure in activities that you once enjoyed. You may find yourself just checking out from people, situations, and things that generally trigger depressing episodes in you. Depression can also vary from a variety of emotional and physical symptoms. It can impact your ability to function at work. Even for adolescents, it may impact their ability to focus at school. Some symptoms that are associated with depression are fatigue, mood swings, loss of appetite, and sleep disturbances as well. So that's the gist of what depression is. Your thoughts race. You find yourself maybe experiencing suicidal thoughts as well. That's another part of it. And then different changes in your lifestyle also can be associated with how depression may show up in your life, whether it's abrupt or it's acutely as well. So when we talk about depression, we're not talking about just like a day when you're just feeling down. You're just temporarily checking out from something that may be just minor. It's a personal weakness. It's something that you just may have experienced, and you just may be feeling bad or sad that day. That's not what I'm talking about. Everyone experiences occasional highs and lows in life. That's a part of polarity. You have some good days and you have some bad days. But unnormal fluctuations in your mood can be associated with depression. And so when you start to feel these things, depending on how they show up in your life, they can be either severe or to just snapping or phasing. They call it spazzing out, if you will, where you just go off on people, and then it requires someone to intervene so that you can get help to kind of come back to your sense of reality. Depression is not the same as grief. Like when someone dies and you experience a loss, that's not the same thing. You have to, when someone dies, that's a part of the natural physiological state where one has to grieve. Okay, so the two can share the same symptoms. However, they're specifically different, and they're tied to a particular event that you may experience in your life, and then they diminish over time. Dealing with depression can have its impact in a negative way on your overall state of being. Like I mentioned earlier, you can check out, you can not want to be around other people, you can go without eating. Some people deal with depression differently. Some people overeat. But essentially, it's our way of coping with the distress that we're experiencing in our body and our mental state. So when I think about the depression that I have felt in my life, like I said, you have times where you have good days and bad days. I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about when you're just literally just down and out and you're in the dumps and all you want to do is just lay down and just not talk to people or things like that. And so we kind of disconnect or detach, if you will. So when I talk about depression in that regard, I'm basically saying where you get so low that you find yourself wanting to take your own life, or you find yourself just not wanting to deal with your current reality. I have been there. And it's not an easy place to be. Feeling like you're alone, feeling like you don't want to call people because you may feel weak, And like I mentioned earlier, it's not a sign of weakness. It's something that we go through, and it's a way that our brains help us adapt to the uncomfort or the discomfort that we're feeling at that particular moment. So when you think about it, how many times in your life where you're dealing with just everyday circumstances, and it just starts to become insurmountable. And the day you're dealing with, you're good. You're good. And as time goes on, you start to feel your energy dwindle and things like that. It's that means it's starting to creep up on you. Okay. And sometimes the effects of depression can be very subtle, because in one moment you could be talking to someone, you could be just having a normal conversation, and then you know what, I'll talk to you later, or you just check out. That's how depression can show up in someone's life. And the one thing I want you to understand is that you don't have to be strong. You don't have to feel like, that you need to be Wonder Woman or Superman to be able to deal with the effects of depression. Again, everybody faces depression in their lives, just like everyone may or may not face some form of trauma in their life. It's how we deal with it, essentially, is how we recover and be able to live to tell the testament of how we overcame that traumatic event. So like I mentioned, I have dealt with depression in my own life before. And so typically when I go through these bouts, what I do for myself, and this is the tools that you can utilize if you choose to, but what I generally do is I examine what's going on in my mental state. That's the first thing I do. I check with my mental state, and I said, okay, what are you feeling right now? Whether it's undervalued, whether it's feeling hopelessness, where you start to feel despair, these emotions begin to creep up on you. And again, they begin to affect your physiological state. So what I do is I begin to examine, okay, what are you feeling? Depending on how long I have allowed those thoughts to dwindle will ultimately determine how quick I am able to come back from it. Because if I can catch it, I will say to myself, these are not healthy thoughts. These are not healthy thoughts. Let's get back to the present moment. Because essentially what's happened in your state of being is that you've checked out from the present moment into some unforeseen circumstance or past event, and you're catastrophizing. Correct me if I'm wrong in that word, but you're making the situation bigger than what it is. Okay, so that's what catastrophizing is. Okay, you're making the situation bigger than what it is. And so when you do that, you send signals to the brain that you're not safe. And so your brain in return begins to dump hormones of cortisol into your body, and that's where those feelings begin to come from. And I'm going to tell you something, like I mentioned earlier, depending on where you catch it at, where those thoughts, if you allow them to just linger and dwindle there, it will be hard for you to come back from that. This is what leads to depressive episodes. And depending on how long they be there, it's not a good time to check out. It's not a good time to lay and be isolated, because I'm going to tell you something. These thoughts can become so strong that you feel like they're real, and that the issue or circumstance is happening to you right now. And that's a problem. So when I realize that my body is doing this, and I need to examine my thoughts. And so I examine my thoughts, I find out what the feeling is, and then I come back to the present moment, and then I ask myself, what can I do about it now? What can I do about it now? Because a lot of times we're trying to fight battles in our mind that we can't even do anything about. Allowing yourself to be physically or mentally disrupted for such a time that it causes these depressive episodes is where life becomes so difficult. And I'm here to tell you, it's not good. Okay? Bringing yourself back to the present moment is another way that I cope with depressive episodes. Is looking at my children. For me, you may have your own way of feeling joy or happiness. For me, it's looking at my children, being able to see their laughter and their beauty on their face, and I have so much to look forward to in that regard. Some of the other things I do is put on music. I'll put on some fast music, and I'll start dancing and getting my body moving. So the energies of fear, anger, worry, stress, sadness, despair, hopelessness, those feelings are associated with an energetic pull on the body. And so what you want to do is you get your body moving, okay? And you essentially move those things around, and then the music can help you release, and it'll give you some form of strength or clarity in that regard if you can just get there. That's the key. If you can just get there, okay? What I'm sharing with you profits nothing if you lay in a funk, or if you just sit in a funk. It's not going to be helpful for you. So you have to find a way of getting out into that area of, you know what? Let me get up. Let me move around. Or again, let me put music on. Or again, let me focus on the current reality. Or again, find something that brings you joy. I told you, for me, it's my children and things like that. And then breathe. Give yourself an opportunity to feel your energy inside of you. And then if you feel things that you don't want to feel, let it go. Tell yourself, I give my body permission to release all of the anxiety, all of the stress, and all of the worry that's going on in my life right now. I cannot control it. I cannot predict it. Therefore, it's not profiting me anything. I release it. And then allow yourself to release that feeling. And then once you've done that, breathe. Okay? Come back to the present moment again. And after you breathe, actually, check in with your body. See how you feel. Okay? Let your body know that it's safe. That's another thing. You have to let your body know that it's safe, so that it can get out of that parasympathetic the fight or flight mode. You want to get out of that state because it's causing your body to experience this fight or flight moment, and then your body freezes. Okay? So we talked about, what depression is. We talked about the effects of depression and how it affects your moods, your feelings, the way you think, and the way you act. Okay? And we also talked about coping. I shared with you how I deal with depression and so forth. And I also let you know that depression is not a sign of weakness. Everybody goes through moments in life where the cares of life just become so overwhelming for them that they need to breathe. Okay? And so that's what I want you to know, that when you come to this channel, guys, I want you to know that a lot of my stories, the things that I've been through, are things that I'm overcoming. And me sharing these tips with you guys, they help me. It helps me to because I'm still going through my healing journey, and we all will continue to go through it if we do the work. Okay? And you will have days where you have highs and lows, but it doesn't have to define you. Okay? People like to utilize terms that essentially are not beneficial to anyone. If a person is crazy or they're delusional or whatever the case may be, these things are very hurtful and they're very dogmatic. Okay? Especially when people that are close to you, we become so familiar with them. We're familiar with their personality, and then we don't realize when people are really hurting. Do me a favor. Examine yourself in that regard. Understand that everybody is battling something that they're going through, and we all need some form of encouragement and uplifting opportunity, moments of connecting with others and opportunities to be ourselves. Allow that for someone. Allow them to be their authentic self, regardless of what that may be, as long as they're not harming or hurting anyone or belittling or being disrespectful. Show kindness, okay? And then in the end, forgive. Okay, my name is Coach Regina, and this is Coach to You. I want to thank you guys for taking time to watch this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.